Hello and welcome to the Quality Control staff presentation that addresses the information and communication component of the firm's QC system. My name is Carla Anderson, and I am an assistant in the PCAOB's Office of the Chief Auditor. Today's staff presentation is one in a series of staff presentations that address the requirements of QC 1000, the firm's new standard on quality control, which will take effect on December 15th, 2025. Given the intent of this staff presentation is to focus on only one of the components of the firm's QC system, we will not be discussing all of the nuances of the standard and related amendments. Therefore, I encourage participants to read the adopting release in order to gain a more complete understanding of the new standard and related amendments and explore the other implementation resources that have been issued to date, including a staff presentation and staff guidance document that provide an in-depth overview of QC 1000 and guidance for firms about how to comply with the standard. All of this can be found on the PCAOB's website. Before we get started, I'll state our standard disclaimer. The views expressed are offered in my capacity as staff of the PCAOB's Office of the Chief Auditor, but they are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the board as a whole, any individual board members, or other PCAOB staff. In our staff presentation on the firm's system of quality control and overview of QC 1000, we briefly covered 8 integrated components of the firm's QC system that are required to be included in a firm's design of its QC system. These components are consistent with other quality management standards and are presented on the slide. Today, we will be focusing on the information and communication component, the component circled on the chart in red. The information and communication component addresses the firm's processes for obtaining, generating, and using information to enable the design, implementation, and operation of the QC system and the performance of its engagements, and for communicating information within the firm and to external parties on a timely basis. The processes within this component serve the critical function of generating, gathering, disseminating the information needed for the firm, including the QC system, to function. The process of determining information needs is iterative and ongoing. As the nature and circumstances of the firm change, information needs also change. The information and communication component of the QC system operates over this area of the firm's operations. Before we dive into the quality objectives for this component, I would like to remind everyone that the quality objectives we discuss today are required to be established by the firm. QC 1000 specifies required quality objectives for each of the 6 components to which the risk assessment process applies. Quality objectives are a defined term in Appendix A of QC 1000. They are defined as the desired outcomes in relation to the components of the QC system to be achieved by the firm. The first quality objective in the information and communication component relates to identifying, capturing, processing, and maintaining information. It states that information, whether from internal or external sources, is identified, captured, processed, and maintained by the firm's information system to support the operation of the firm's QC system and the performance of its engagements in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. Information systems vary from firm to firm and encompass different sets of activities involving people, processes, data, or technology, or some combination thereof. Some firms' information systems may be heavily reliant on IT aspects, while other information systems may require more manual intervention. Under QC 1000, firms have the necessary flexibility to design their information systems based on their specific facts and circumstances, so long as the quality objectives are achieved. The next 2 quality objectives of the information and communication component relate to the exchange of information between the firm and firm personnel. Information is essential to firm personnel being able to understand and fulfill their responsibilities relating to the QC system and the performance of the firm's engagements. Through our oversight activities, we observed improved audit quality when there was regular, consistent communication among members of the engagement team. The first of these quality objectives is related to information communicated to firm personnel. This quality objective states that the nature, timing, and extent of information communicated to firm personnel enables them to understand and carry out their responsibilities related to activities within the firm's QC system and the performance of its engagements in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements and the firm's policies and procedures. For example, The firm communicates information to engagement teams that is relevant in performing the engagement, such as information obtained during the firm's acceptance and continuance process. The next quality objective is related to information communicated by firm personnel to the firm and other firm personnel. It states that such information is communicated to support, number one, the operation of the QC system, and number two, the performance of the firm's engagements in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. For example, engagement teams communicate information to the firm that may assist the firm when evaluating whether to continue the engagement, such as information about the company obtained during engagement performance. Two-way communication may also occur among firm personnel. For example, firm personnel performing engagements may exchange information directly with other firm personnel performing activities within the firm's QC system, such as information to facilitate compliance with the firm's independence policies and procedures. The next quality objective in the information and communication component relates to communicating with external parties. The standard requires the firm to establish a quality objective that addresses communications to external parties in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. This quality objective focuses firms on providing the necessary communications to external parties when required. Among other things, this objective covers the completeness, accuracy, and timeliness of a firm's existing annual and periodic reporting to the PCAOB. This includes Forms 2 and 3, Form AP, and the new Form QC required under QC 1000. External parties may include, for example, company management, audit committees, and board of directors, the SEC, the PCAOB, and other regulators. The next quality objective in the information and communication component also relates to communicating with external parties. It specifically relates to communicating firm level or engagement level information with respect to the firm's audit practice, its personnel, or its engagements. I'm going to walk through it step by step and dissect it a bit. First, it states that if such information is communicated to external parties, it is required to be accurate and not misleading. I want to point out that the information subject to this quality objective includes communications such as promotional publications, webcasts, and information available on the firm's website. The quality objective goes on to state that, with respect to any such metrics that are communicated in writing, the communication is required to explain in reasonable detail how the metrics were determined. The firm is required to explain how the metric was determined in reasonable detail. Generally, a description of the calculation will be appropriate, and to the extent that there are any key assumptions or estimates used in the inputs, these could also be explained. For example, in a staffing-related ratio, the firm may exclude certain professionals from the calculation or incorporate a full-time equivalent measurement when calculating headcount data. Such information would be relevant when explaining how the metric was determined. Finally, the quality objective states that if a firm changes the method used to determine a metric that is communicated externally, the firm is required to explain the change made since the metric was last communicated. For example, if the firm decides on a going forward basis to include staff from its shared service centers that were previously excluded from the staffing related metrics, the firm needs to explain this change the next time the firm makes a communication of the staffing related metrics. Before we move on, I want to point out that even though this quality objective applies both to voluntary metrics and to metrics that the firm is required to calculate and communicate pursuant to the rules of regulatory authorities, as a practical matter, firms are not required to provide communications regarding required metrics if the formula to calculate the metric is publicly available. The next quality objective relates to firms that belong to a network. It states that if the firm belongs to a network, information is communicated to or obtained from the network to enable the operation of the firm's QC system and the performance of its engagements in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. If the firm belongs to a network, exchange of information between the firm and the network may play an important role in supporting the operation of the firm's QC system and the performance of its engagements. For example, if the network performs centralized monitoring procedures over certain resources that are used by the network member firms in either their engagements or their QC system, such as globally used technology platforms or methodologies, then the firm will need to obtain information from the network regarding the results of the monitoring procedures performed. This will enable the firm to evaluate whether it is able to rely on the operation of those resources. On the other hand, the firm may need to communicate to the network when there are changes to the firm's QC system that may affect the network's monitoring activities. For example, if a firm changes an IT system it uses that interfaces with a system that is maintained by the network, the firm may determine it necessary to communicate the change to the network so revisions can be made on the network's end to update the interface. The next quality objective is for firms that use other participants. Before we discuss the quality objective, I want to remind everyone who an other participant is. Other participants are defined at paragraph A7 of the standard. With respect to work performed in connection with the firm's QC system or the performance of its engagements, other participants are accounting firms, foreign or domestic, registered or unregistered, accountants, and other professionals or organizations other than firm personnel whose responsibilities include assisting with, number one, the performance of the firm's engagements, or number two, the design, implementation, or operation of the firm's QC system, including engagement quality reviews. Going back to the quality objective, it states that if other participants are used in the firm's QC system or engagements, the nature, timing, and extent of information communicated to other participants enables them to understand and carry out their responsibilities relating to activities within the firm's QC system and the performance of its engagements in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements and the firm's policies and procedures. And information is obtained from the other participants such that the aspects of the QC system and the engagements in which they are involved can be performed in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. This quality objective notes that if an other participant is a firm, the information to be obtained should include the conclusion of the most recent evaluation of the QC system of the other participant firm. The most recent evaluation of the other participant firm's QC system refers to only the firm's conclusion under the firm's evaluation under paragraph 77 of QC 1000 as of the most recent September 30th, that is the evaluation date, if such an evaluation was performed. If the other participant firm did not evaluate its QC system under QC 1000 as of the most recent evaluation date, then this provision refers to the most recent QC evaluation performed by the other participant firm under any other professional standards such as ISQM1 or SQMS1. In practically all cases, we believe a firm will be able to obtain the conclusion of the most recent evaluation of the other participant's QC system. If a firm is unable to obtain the other firm's evaluation of its QC system, for example, because the other participant hasn't performed an evaluation or if local laws forbid them from sharing it, then the firm should assess what other procedures are necessary to achieve the quality objective. The last quality objective under the information and communication component states that if the firm participates in another firm's engagement, information is communicated to and obtained from the other firm such that the firm's work on the engagement is performed in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. This communication includes any instances of non-compliance with applicable professional and legal requirements that the firm identifies related to the other firm's engagements during the firm's monitoring and remediation procedures. The firm may participate in another firm's engagement as an other participant. For the same reasons that apply when the firm is issuing the engagement report and using the work of other participants, it is important that there is an appropriate exchange of information in order to enable the firm serving as an other participant to fulfill its role in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. Before we discuss the specified quality responses in the information and communication component, I'd like to highlight a few reminders about specified quality responses in general. In addition to the quality responses that the firm designs on their own through the risk assessment process, QC 1000 also includes specified quality responses. Specified quality responses are mandated policies and procedures that apply in some cases to all firms, and in other cases only to firms with a larger PCAOB audit practice. These specified quality responses are not intended to be comprehensive. Consequently, the specified quality responses alone are not sufficient to enable the firm to achieve all established quality objectives. Firms are required to include their own quality responses as well. Both the specified quality responses and the quality responses the firm designs and implements on its own are critical in addressing the firm's quality risk. One last important point is that designing and implementing appropriate quality responses, that is, the firm's policies and procedures, standardize the firm's actions and can help a firm to consistently comply with applicable professional and legal requirements. The first specified quality response of the information and communication component relates to communicating policies and procedures. The first part of the specified quality response is that the firm communicate in writing its policies and procedures related to, number one, the operation of the firm's QC system, and number two, the performance of its engagements to firm personnel and other participants. QC 1000 does not prescribe any specific format, for example, narrative, flowchart, or other forms, that the firm needs to follow when communicating its policies and procedures. The policies and procedures are required to be in writing and in a manner that is reasonably designed to enable firm personnel and other participants to understand and carry out their responsibilities. The format of these policies and procedures may vary depending on the specific responsibilities being addressed and how the firm wants to communicate them. Moving on, the communication should be made to the extent and in a manner that is reasonably designed and implemented to enable those firm personnel and other participants to understand and carry out their responsibilities related to, number one, activities within the firm's QC system, and number two, the performance of its engagements in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements and the firm's policies and procedures. The firm might not necessarily have to communicate all of its policies and procedures to other participants to meet the requirements of the standard. Rather, the type of policies and procedures communicated would vary based on the roles other participants play in the operation of the firm's QC system and the performance of its engagements. For example, if the firm engages an externally contracted engagement quality reviewer or EQR, it would need to communicate a broad set of policies and procedures, including policies on independence, objectivity, engagement quality review procedures, and documentation, ensuring the EQR can carry out their role effectively and in compliance with the firm's QC system. In contrast, if the firm engages a valuation specialist to provide input on the fair value measurements of a specific asset for a single audit engagement, the communication of policies and procedures would be much narrower in scope. In this case, the firm might only share policies and procedures related to documentation standards for their work product, independence, and confidentiality. This targeted communication ensures the specialist has the necessary guidance to perform their specific tasks without requiring an understanding of the firm's broader QC system. The next specified quality response is related to communication of information related to the monitoring and remediation process. Firms are required to communicate this information to firm personnel to enable them to take timely action in accordance with their responsibilities. This includes communicating, to the extent necessary, a description of the monitoring activities performed and the results, including monitoring performed by a network if applicable, a description of identified engagement deficiencies and QC deficiencies, including their nature, severity, and pervasiveness, and a description of actions to address those engagement deficiencies and QC deficiencies. When determining the specific information to be communicated to firm personnel, including the nature and extent of the communication, the firm may consider the type of information that is relevant to the recipients given their roles and responsibilities within the firm. For example, information may be communicated to specific engagement teams that may be focused on a description of identified engagement deficiencies and related remedial actions that are likely to be relevant to such firm personnel and their engagements. As another example, information communicated to all firm personnel may relate to deficiencies identified through QC system-level monitoring activities, such as compliance issues in connection with the firm's ethics and independence policies and procedures. And finally, the last specified quality response of the information and communication component states that the firm should communicate the results of the annual evaluation of its QC system to the firm's partners, shareholders, members, or other principals, and the firm's board of directors or equivalent. These individuals may use this information in various ways. For example, as a basis for further communications to firm personnel about the importance of quality or to address concerns about the QC system in a timely manner. Before we wrap up today's staff presentation, I just wanted to remind everyone of our QC implementation webpage located on the PCAOB's website. We continue to update it as we develop additional implementation resources. These include a staff presentation of an overview of QC 1000, as well as staff guidance documents covering aspects of QC 1000 and the related amendments to AS 2901. The QC implementation webpage also includes a phone number and form for contacting the PCAOB regarding standards-related inquiries. If you subscribed to PCAOB News, you will receive a notification when the page is updated with new resources. For more information on the standard and related amendments, please also see PCAOB release number 2024-005 on the PCAOB's website. Thank you for listening and have a great day.